In today's video, we'll be seeing pets ranging from $1 all the way up to $500. But every time we level up, the animals get more extreme and way harder to handle. It all started when I was at the pet store the other day and spotted a dollar laying on the ground. I looked around to see if anyone dropped it and no one was there. So I picked it up and started wondering if we can get anything for $1. But then I came across these two feeder tanks. They use these fish to feed the other ones, so they priced them really cheap. For $1, we can get 5 minnows or 2 goldfish. I ended up getting 2 goldfish and brought them home. So I grabbed an old 20-gallon, added some hardscape and dechlorinated water so we can add in our new pets. I started by floating the bag in the tank to acclimate our fish. This lets the temperature slowly match the tank, so there's no shock. Once the temperature is matched, it was finally time to add them in. We got one goldfish that's solid orange, and another with these dark markings running along its body. These are both comet goldfish, and right away you can tell how active they are. They really don't sit still, and they're constantly moving around the tank. One thing I learned with these guys is they grow fast. They might look small now, but they can get over 10 inches pretty easy. So this tank works for now, while they're still young. I grabbed some flakes that improve color to see if they were hungry. As the flakes started falling to the bottom, our goldfish started to smell the aroma. Our orange one found the flakes first and started eating. Then the black one quickly came over and joined in on the feast. Once they were done, they started swimming around the tank together. It's pretty cool to see these two goldfish getting along so well. So it's time to move on to our $10 pet. I went back to the pet store and started browsing the different options. But honestly, everything I wanted was too expensive. That's when I came over to the betta section and saw they had all the females for $9.99, so we could get a female betta as our pet. This one instantly stood out to me, so I brought her back to the fish room to start building her an ecosystem. I need you to go down in the comments and pick a name for our new betta. The most liked comment will be its new name. Once the build was finished, the ecosystem actually came together really nicely with an aquasoil bottom, these cool looking rocks, and it even added a betta box like the ones we used in the giant betta ecosystem. Once everything was good, I added in our betta fish, and the second she hit the water, she instantly started exploring the entire tank. She slowly made her way around the rocks, swimming through all the little openings. Then after a few laps around the tank, she started making her way over to the betta box and even stopped underneath the floating ring. I figured there was a pretty good chance she was hungry, so I grabbed some frozen bloodworms and lowered them into the water with a pair of tweezers. At first she just stared at them for a second, but then she slowly swam over and started eating the bloodworms right from the tweezers. It seems she's enjoying the ecosystem, so let's move on to the $25 pet. At this point I drove back to the store, and with a bigger budget, I could basically get almost anything. That's when I came across this tank filled with blue crayfish. These crayfish have about a 1 in a million chance of turning blue, which makes them extremely rare compared to a regular one. So I ended up grabbing one of the blue crayfish they had on sale for $22.99. And once we got back, my first thought was to build him his own setup. But while I was at the pet store, they actually had these crayfish living in the same system as the goldfish. So instead of separating everything right away, I decided we could add our crayfish into the goldfish tank for now. So for this video, they're going to be roommates until we build them their own ecosystems in future videos. And as a bonus, the employee even threw in a free fish for us to use as food, just in case our crayfish starts to get aggressive with our goldfish. A little later, I found him hanging out near the sponge filter, climbing through the rocks and exploring every little hiding spot. At that point it kinda looked like he was searching for food, so I grabbed the feeder goldfish out of the freezer. I like to freeze these first, just to make sure any potential parasites or diseases are killed off. So I grabbed my tongs and lowered the fish into the tank, right in front of our crayfish. He climbed up onto the log, grabbed the fish with his claws, and quickly pulled it underneath. Watching this up close is pretty wild. He doesn't just eat it right away. He'll hold it in place with the big claws, and with his smaller legs underneath, he starts tearing it apart piece by piece. He slowly breaks down the whole thing, instead of eating it all at once. So with our crayfish fed and our goldfish safe, let's move on to our $25 pet. So I was about to jump in the car and head to the pet store when my phone went off. I had posted on my Snapchat story asking if any subscribers could help me with a video, and this guy responded. So I asked him if he had any pets, and he told me he had a teddy bear hamster. and sent me these pictures. Honestly, that's the cutest hamster I've ever seen, and I asked him if I could take care of it for the day. He actually said yes, so I sent him the address to the Simply HQ, and not long after, he showed up with the hamster enclosure. I was honestly shocked when it got here, because I was expecting a small hamster cage, but instead it was a huge wooden enclosure with a glass viewing panel on the front. He also brought a box full of supplies and instructions on how to take care of him. Once our subscriber left, I went over to the enclosure to find the hamster, but teddy bear hamsters are really good at hiding. They like to burrow, dig, and tuck themselves into corners where they feel safe. And since his enclosure is so big, he could honestly be anywhere under there. So instead of moving everything around to find him, I'll just let him be, and I'll see what supplies we got in the box. There's a bag of food, some water, and a few treats. So I grabbed his food dish and started filling it up. There's a mix of pellets that are packed with the nutrients they need, along with some seeds and grains they like to pick through. Then I filled up his water bottle that hooks up to the side of the tank. Once everything was set, I put the camera up and just waited for him to come out. And after a couple hours, I started to see the bedding move. And out popped Gustavo. This was my first time seeing him in person, and he's honestly one of the cutest animals I've ever seen. But right away you can tell he's nervous. He came out for a second, looked around, and then ran straight back into his hide. Teddy bear hamsters are usually pretty cautious, especially in a new environment. They're also very active at night, so during the day they usually sleep or like to stay hidden in their burrows. Later that night, I came back and found him near the water bottle, just sitting there. Gustavo still seems confused about his new environment. Every time he saw me, he'd run straight back into his hide. So our goal before we give Gustavo back is to see if he'll let us pet him. The next morning I woke up wondering if Gustavo was out, and he was finally eating from his food dish. The one thing about hamsters is they're pretty picky, so instead of eating it all evenly, they grab whatever they're in the mood for and leave the rest for later. Check him out holding this seed with his little hands. It's so cute. And once he finished eating, he went over to the water bottle and started drinking. Hamsters use water bottles because it keeps the water clean and controlled. Since they're always digging and moving the bedding around, a regular bowl would get dirty really fast. I also got a text from our subscriber saying he'll be coming back tomorrow to pick up the hamster. Later that day, I came back and he was still sleeping, but the subscriber told me something important. If you call his name and ask if he wants a cookie, he should come out since vanilla cookies are his favorite. So I lowered a cookie into the enclosure. He then ran over and took the cookie from my hand. I didn't know if he'd grab it and run, but he just sat there and started eating. So I figured this was the best moment to slowly lower my hand in and touch him for the first time. His fur was really soft, so I gave him a few more pets, let him finish his cookie. Taking care of Gustavo has honestly been so much fun, so if this video gets 20,000 likes, I'll get my own hamster and build it a mega ecosystem. And that's when our subscriber showed up to pick him up. So now it's time to step things up, and we're moving on to our $100 pet. But for this one, I wanted to do something different. Instead of setting up a tank or an enclosure, I'm gonna foster a dog for the day, try to give it a better life. So I took a drive over to the local pound. My local community has a program where you can foster a shelter dog. It's set up where you can take the dog out of the kennel for a few hours and give them a break from the shelter. You can take them for walks, spend time with them, just give them the love they need. So after waiting for a little bit, let me introduce you to Brownie. He's an 11-year-old foster dog that loves to go on walks and take naps. So I brought Brownie back to the car. I figured we could take him for a walk in the park, buy him a new toy, and give him a treat. So I headed over to a local park that doesn't have a lot of people around it. We started walking through the park, and right away Brownie was super excited. He kept stopping every few steps just to sniff around, checking out the grass, and looking at everything like it was brand new. You could tell he wasn't in a rush at all. He just wanted to explore every little thing. It was honestly kind of eye-opening, seeing how happy he was just to go on a simple walk, something a lot of us don't really think twice about. I even brought Brownie over to my secret fishing spot, and when we got there, it was actually crazy. There were hundreds of fish swimming around, and it made me think Brownie was a good luck charm. So we finished our walk, and I came back to the car and poured him some water. It's important we keep the dog hydrated, because it's definitely hot today. Once he finished drinking, I packed him up safely in the car and drove him to the pet store to pick out a toy. When we got to Petco, We went over the dog section, and they had hundreds of toys to choose from, and he ended up getting this one. So he waited in line like a good boy, and he took his toy back to the Simply HQ to play. I took him outside to play with his new toy, but I had to be careful that Brownie wouldn't jump into the pool, but it seems he wasn't interested in the water and just wanted to play with his new toys. So we played fetch for a while, and he looked like he was having so much fun. Once he tired himself out, it was time to get some water and air conditioning. Being an old dog like this, definitely important to keep them hydrated and rested. I went over to his supply bag to find some food, but all I could find were these treats, so I gave him one to enjoy. I sat with Brownie while he ate his treat, and once he finished his food, it was time to pack him up into the car and take him back to the shelter. On the way back to the center, I caught him taking a nap in the back of the car, so I guess the walk and playing outside made him kinda tired. Once we got there, I took him for a final walk, and it was so sad walking Brownie back into the pound. But while I was outside, someone stopped me and asked how to adopt the dog. I gave him the information for the program, and hopefully that person will come rescue him soon. Anyways, I said bye to Brownie, and if you guys want to try this out, Google if any local shelters have a buddy program near you. And now it's time to move on to our $500 pet. Before this, I actually reached out to a few local animal rehab places, just to see if they had anything a little bit more extreme. And one place called Native Village got back to me, and they said they had a huge snake for us to come see. So I drove over and I was honestly shocked by how many animals they had. The snake room was heavily secured, with multiple locks and warning signs everywhere. Once the door was open, I saw an entire wall of enclosures, filled with different snakes. But the one they told me about was all the way at the bottom, a Burmese python that's over 10 feet long. So they started by unlocking the bottom and sliding it out. And that's when I saw it. It was easily the biggest snake I've ever seen in my life. Once it was fully out of the enclosure, it was time to set up the feeding box. They like to use feeding boxes and feed snakes outside of their enclosure so they don't associate the tank with food. And it was time for the part I was not ready for. They told me they need help moving the snake, and I genuinely thought they were joking. Then they handed me the snake, and I don't know how to explain it. Holding an 11-foot python makes you very aware that you're not the apex predator in the room. Once it was secure in the feeding box, we locked it up and let it settle, and then it was time to move on to cleaning the enclosure. We removed the water bowl, pulled out all the wet bedding. I even stepped in for a second, just to see what it was like to take care of a snake. Once everything was clean, it was feeding time. They used long tongs and a pre-prepared rat. So they opened the feeding box and lowered the rat down, and the strike happened instantly. It was so fast, I barely processed it. The snake wrapped around the rat immediately and made sure the prey was fully secured before he started eating. Just a quick note, everything that's being fed in this video is prepared especially for the animal and its care. While we let it finish its meal in peace, snakes like to digest their food without stress. So while we waited, I got to walk around the rest of Native Village, and this place is actually incredible. It's a non-profit rescue that takes in animals people can no longer care for and gives them proper housing and care. They had everything from tortoises roaming around. Check out this one I found eating a cob of corn. It's so cool watching these guys eat. They also have a turtle pond filled with many turtles. I want to hopefully build one of these ponds for Taylor the turtle when he gets bigger one day. After the turtles, I headed over to the other section, and I was shocked when I saw a bunch of small alligators. They were the last thing I was expecting, but they have these cool double pond setups, like 20 alligators in it. Check out this one soaking up some sun on the top. I wanted to keep exploring, but it was time to go back for the snake feeder. So they opened up the box, and the same thing, a lightning fast strike. This is why you need to be extremely careful when handling big snakes, because one wrong move could turn bad. Once it was done, it's important to start digestion. The owners told me that after feeding, snakes should not be disturbed for at least 24 hours, because their entire body is focused on breaking down the food, and stress can actually cause serious health issues. I came back the next day, and this is when I met Ian. Ian is in charge of putting the snakes back in the enclosure, and this guy's a savage. He threw the snake over his shoulder like nothing, and started bringing him back to the snake room. When he asked if I wanted to see something cool, he brought the snake over to a pond and dropped him in for a swim. I was surprised to see the snake moving through the water with all these fish below it. I was surprised the snake didn't attack them, but Ian told me he only likes rats and just loves to swim. After a bit, it was time to return to its enclosure. So Ian carefully guided it back in, locked it up, and just like that, $500 pet was complete. I want to give a huge shout out to Native Village for letting us come out and experience this. If you want to support them, I'll link their channel in the description. And they said if this video gets 25,000 likes, they'll bring us back for a $1,000 versus $10,000 pet challenge. If you love this video, then watch me build a fish tank out of a TV.